Hi there, my name's Theodora. I'm with Edinburgh Community Food and welcome to our live cooking demonstration today. I'm joined here today by Louise.
Hello.
And today we are going to be cooking a very tasty meal for you. You'll have received this in your boxes today or on Monday. Some of you will be receiving your boxes today, some of you will get your boxes on Monday. Absolutely delicious recipe made for us, designed and made for us to go along with our fantastic Grow Strong campaign that happened through the summer. Hopefully you were all able to grow your own little tomato plants.
Yeah.
And just to prove that it works, I've actually brought some of my own tomatoes from my garden, so I'm going to be using some of these in my recipe today. Delicious. So welcome along. We're going to get going now. We're going to get cooking. I've got all my ingredients here that you'll have in your box. That includes red onion. We've got some tomatoes, just in case you don't quite have enough that came from your tomato plant. We've got a bag of spices, including one of these, a little cinnamon stick. We've also got some garlic, a bulb of garlic. Now we need quite a lot of garlic for this recipe. And a can of coconut milk and garlic itself. I've peeled some, and some ginger. So this is the ginger. We want just kind of a thumb-sized piece of ginger. So this is quite big. So what I've done is I've picked off a couple of bits and I'm going to chop them up and put them in. So that's going to be my ginger. So I think we'll just get started, shall we, Louise?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. So,
on the Facebook chat, so if anyone's got any questions or if you want to just say hello, please feel free and let us know if you're watching along.
Please stop by and say hi. So I'm just going to clear my board off first so that I can chop the tomatoes. So I'm going to start with my tomatoes, including my little baby tomatoes here. And I'm just going to chop these up and put them in a bowl. Got a bowl here. Just going to chop these up, put them in a bowl. So we want...
Anyone watching has grown some tomatoes when we got the tomato seeds back in the Easter holidays. Let us know. I think quite a lot of them had.
We saw some
lovely tomatoes.
We saw some fantastic pictures of people with their tomatoes. Some of them looked incredible. Some lovely plants.
How did you find them to grow, Theodora?
I found them quite easy to grow. I started them off indoors, and then what I did is I've got a little bit of space outside, so I put my tomato plants outside as well, just under cover a little bit so that they didn't get too cold. Not that we needed it much over the summer. It was lovely and warm over the summer, as we know. And I've still got lots of tomatoes coming. A lot of them are green, but you can still use green tomatoes.
Yeah. What do you do with yours?
Well, what I'd probably do is I'd pick them and I'd chop them up, and I think I would actually put them in a curry like this. I'd put in some red tomatoes and then I'd chop and put in some green tomatoes. They wouldn't be as sweet. And if you feel really fancy and want to look up a recipe, you could probably do some green tomato chutney as well.
That's what I was going to say. So then you can make green tomato chutney in the slow cooker. It's lovely.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing goes to waste. Even though they're green, you can still use them up.
Absolutely. And particularly because a lot of people, you'll find that you have maybe not green tomatoes, but they've not quite turned red yet, and they're just starting to turn a little bit yellow or orange, and they're good. And you can pick them, put them in the house to help, put them somewhere to help ripen them up, and then you can use them. Now you might notice that some of mine, the ones that I grew and picked, they've split, but I picked these off the plant just yesterday. So even though they've split, and that's because of the change in temperature, I think, from coming from outside into the house, I know that they're perfectly good to use. So I'm happy still to use my split tomatoes. Did you grow any, Louise?
No, I actually didn't in the end. I know, I moved house and it was a bit too much. So next year I can't wait. So I'll be getting all the tips off everybody, and hopefully I'll get some tomatoes because I think they look like out. They've all been chewed tips, so I'll hopefully have some next year.
Good. Something to look forward to. So I'm just chopping these tomatoes. Small-ish, not really tiny, but smallish. I want them to be able to cook down easily. So just chopping them up. I've got a good knife here. It's a nice sharp knife, so very good for cooking with. But if you've got little people around, always be careful when you've got sharp knives. But it means that I can cut my tomatoes nice and easily, which does help. So I'm nearly finished my tomatoes. There we go. And I'm making sure that I try and save all the juice as well, even though they're running off the tomatoes. I'm putting that into the bowl as well, so I don't want to waste the juice. That's all the good stuff in there. Oh, there's always a bit that gets away though.
What I like about this recipe is that you could use this at any time you don't have to have fresh tomatoes. You could use tin of tomatoes instead.
Absolutely, and in fact I've got a little tin of tomatoes here as well, so you can use fresh tomatoes, you can use tinned tomatoes, and if you've picked your own tomatoes from your garden and don't quite have enough, you can use a nice tin of chopped tomatoes as well and put it in. So there are ways to use that as well. Right, I suppose I better chop my little baby tomatoes in half. They are little, but I know that they're from my garden, so they're going to taste extra tasty. So not all of them have split, but some of them have. But as I say, I picked them just yesterday, so I know that they just split when they came into the house, but that's okay. Some of them are quite tiny. In fact, look, there you go. This one's still quite, it's not quite ripe, but I'm happy I'm going to use that. It's a good bit of tomato.
That's good. Tomatoes are really good for us. They contain something called lycopene.
Lycopene.
Yeah, and it's really good for us. So it can help protect our cells from damage, and it can also, it's maybe been linked to reducing the risk of developing prostate cancer, which is really interesting.
And they're tasty.
Quite good for our eyes. So as we get older, we want to protect our eyes. So we can develop things called cataracts in our eyes. It's thought that lycopene that we can get from tomatoes might help prevent this, which is great.
Ah, okay, so they are really good for you. Right, I've chopped my tomatoes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and do my onion now. So I'm going to chop my onion in half. It's quite a big onion, this one. Oh, yeah. And I'm going to take the root off, and I'll get rid of all my waste. I'll put this in a little food waste bag later. Need to recycle everything that we can, even the waste. So just peeling the outer layer off the onion. Oh, it's putting up a fight. My onions always seem to put up a fight.
You've got a bit of short space there, but normally we would want to put our chopping board on a worktop space, wouldn't we?
Absolutely. But what I've done is I've got it put on another chopping board, so I've actually got a good firm base here for my chopping. So it's not going to tip. It's actually a good firm spot. But yeah, if you've got plenty of space, you can just spread yourself out. But because we've got a couple of cameras here as well, we're a bit limited a little bit with the space. But as you can see, when I'm chopping down, you can see that my board is not moving. That's the main thing. It's a nice hard plastic board. It's firm, it's got a proper grippy surface, so it's not sliding about all over the place. So always keep yourself safe in the kitchen.
A good tip if you do, we did this in the group yesterday, if you do have a chopping board that slides out, you can put a wet cloth or a wet bit of kitchen paper underneath your chopping board, and that helps it from sliding about. So
Ah.
when it
Yeah. Okay, so just a damp cloth under your chopping board just to make sure it doesn't slide. That is a good tip.
Yeah.
I'm just slicing it up, and then I'm just slicing down. I've got my fingers in kind of a little crouched position just to make sure that I'm not cutting my finger. So again, always be careful.
Where are your eyes? Are you crying?
I'm not crying yet. That's a first.
I'm always crying my eyes out when I chop up an onion.
Well, red onions are often not quite as strong as white onions. But it depends on your onion, where they come from, what the variety is. There's so many different reasons. Right, I've chopped my onion, so what we'll do is we'll get the heat on now. So let me get the heat on here. So I've got a gas ring, so let me just get the correct gas on. And I'll get my, there we are.
You're on medium heat for this, is that right?
Medium heat, yeah, not too high. So although I've got this on a big ring, I'm immediately turning it down so that it's down as low as it can. And what I've done is I've already got a little bit of vegetable oil in there. It's a bit of a rough and ready bottle. You can see it's loose, it's lost its outer wrapper, but it's just vegetable oil. Rapeseed oil. So I've just put a little bit already in the bottom of the pan. It's enough to cover the bottom of the pan when you move it around, just to make sure that it's covered. There we are. So that's my pan. I'll put that on the heat, and the very first thing we're going to do is something a little bit different. What we're going to do is we're going to put in our cinnamon stick.
I'm excited to see how this turns out.
Yeah. We have got our little spice bag there, and in the spice bag was one of these. It's cinnamon stick. It's bark from a tree. And so I've taken that out, and what we're doing first of all is we're putting that in the pan with the oil, and that's going to start to just sizzle a bit. Oh, do you know what I've not got, Louise? I haven't got a wooden spoon.
Oh, you might need that.
There we are, easy to sort, one wooden spoon. So I've got my cinnamon stick in, the oil's just starting to heat up. I've got it not too high, let me just check. There we go, yeah. It's always good to kind of check what heat you're on, whether it's a gas or an electric hob you've got. I can stir that around, and I'm just going to stir that around, and it'll start to sizzle in a moment when it gets up to heat. And there we are, so that's quite exciting. That's something very different that we're doing there.
Yeah, it's a nice kind of authentic kind of sounding curry. We haven't spoken about who's created this curry for us. So I don't know if people know Tony Singh. He is a TV chef. You do sometimes see him on these kind of morning cooking shows. He's got a restaurant uptown in the new St James Centre. So he has made this recipe especially for us. So we'll need to take a picture at the end and tag him on Facebook so we can see. And we'll do the same if anyone else makes this recipe. Make sure you send us some pictures, post them on the Facebook group, and we'll try and make sure that Tony sees them.
That would be great. So he's just up at the new
At the new St James Centre.
the new St James Centre.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm near there today. I might have a wee wander up and see if I can spot him. Right, I've peeled my garlic. Now, as I said, we're using quite a lot of garlic today. He's asking for 8 garlic cloves. So by the time I'd peeled my garlic off my bulb, I've used most of it. I've already peeled them just to save a little bit of time. So I've got 8 good sized bits of garlic. You can, of course, alter the amounts and put less in if you want, if you're not so keen on garlic. But I love garlic, it's delicious. So I've got those peeled, and I'm going to pop those down. I'll move my onion over a little bit. Right, I'm going to check my cinnamon. It's just starting to sizzle. And you should be able to just kind of start to smell it as well. So I'm just going to leave that in. I've stirred it around a little bit. Now that I've got that there, if you have any thyme in your box, or thyme in your cupboard. You could sprinkle a little bit of thyme in now as well. I don't have any here, so I'm just gonna, I think there might be some in my little herb bag perhaps, but if you had it separate you could sprinkle it in. But we've got the cinnamon in, and what we want to do now is add the onion. So I'm just going to do that now for Louise. I'm just going to pop the onion in, so excuse me a moment, because I think when I do it I hide you a little bit. She's still there, honest. This is where you wish you had smell-o-vision. Oh yeah, that's good. And dun dun dun, I'm still not crying. I'll stir that around to make sure that the onion gets coated in the oil and in the cinnamon that should start to just be smelling a little bit. I'm going to make sure I've got that on a nice low heat, and I'm going to chop up my garlic now. So I've got quite a lot of garlic here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut these in half so that I can place them on the board and they don't run around. There's nothing worse than trying to chase a vegetable around your chopping board. Oh yeah. I always end up with something on the floor regardless, but it makes it slightly easier to manage. So there we go. That's me cut them there. So as you can see, I can now hold that board up and they're not running around. They're staying where they are. And this is my favourite job. Remember to keep stirring your onion if you need to. My favourite job is chopping garlic. I love chopping garlic. So I'm just going to pretend that I'm a nice professional chef. Look all professional because of the type of knife I've got, and I can just hold the blade tip and I can just rock it backwards and forwards and chop my onion. Chop my garlic rather. Looks good.
Makes it nice and quick.
Yes, you can use garlic crushers as well. So if you've got a garlic crusher, don't be afraid to use it. But I always like to chop it with a knife because you're wasting less that way. With the garlic crusher, you always end up with those little bits stuck in the end.
I quite like using the frozen garlic. You can buy me packs of frozen garlic and ginger, which is quite good when you don't always want to use a whole garlic clove or a whole bit of ginger.
Yeah.
And the frozen stuff tastes just as good, lovely. And you can just choose just what you want. So there's that option as well.
Well, that's good. I go through quite a lot of garlic, so I'm always happy using fresh. But yeah, there's nothing worse than having leftover garlic at the bottom of your drawer and not knowing what to do with it.
Exactly.
There we go. That's me chopped up my garlic. Let me just scrape it off the edge of my knife, just because there's always bits that kind of get stuck there.
You're just adding so many flavours to this pot. It's incredible.
Delicious.
Lots of flavours, lots of spices. So there's things here that are giving this dish flavour, because we're not adding any salt, because we don't want to rely on salt for flavour. We're adding our garlic and our ginger and our herbs and spices. Flavour around the salt.
Yeah, don't need salt. That's my garlic in. So I'm going to give that a little stir as well. Yeah, that's mixed in nicely. And I've now got my ginger. So I've got my ginger here as well. Now what I've done is I've just peeled it roughly. Doesn't matter if you've still got a little bit of the skin on the outside. And again, I'm going to chop it. I'm going to slice it first so that I can place it like I did with my garlic. And then I'm going to chop it. You can also grate it, but if you do that, you're always left with little stringy bits. But there's a really good way of avoiding that. Do you know how you do that, Louise?
No, I don't.
Do you know the freezer trick? If you get your ginger, and if you can always peel it first if you want, then get a little bag, put it in the freezer, and then just, frozen ginger, and then when you want to use ginger, you just go in, get your frozen ginger out of the freezer, and you can grate it, and you're not left with those little stringy bits that are always so difficult to deal with.
That's amazing.
And you waste less as well because of that. So I'm just chopping my garlic instead though, but you can grate it. And as I say, try popping it in the freezer and doing that little, one of these little cooking hacks. Now, not everybody is very fond of ginger. You can put less in if you want. But I like it. I think it's got a nice kind of fresh flavour to it. But I am making sure that, again, I'm chopping it fairly small so that you've got that distribution of the ginger around the food. Right, how does that look? I think that looks okay. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, let's pop that in as well then. If I do it the other way, it would make more sense, won't it? Right, ginger in. So we've got our onion, we've got our garlic, we've got our ginger, and we've still got that cinnamon stick in there. We want to leave that in to let the flavour mingle in with everything else. But just remember at the end of the day to take it out, or leave it as a surprise for someone who finds it. Right, okay, that's my onions, my ginger, my garlic. So what I want to do now is add the rest of my spices and my tomatoes, which look fabulous, particularly because I've got a row of homegrown tomatoes, and there is just nothing better than going, ooh, homegrown tomatoes. So we've got our spices here. Do you know what the different spices are in this today, Louise?
Ooh, I think we've got garam masala, turmeric, a wee bit chilli powder, I think there's thyme in there as well. So lots of lovely authentic flavours.
Yeah. And if you wanted to spice things up again, you can look at the recipe and add a little bit more of any of those flavours to your own taste. This isn't making the curry hot spicy, it's making it nice and flavoursome.
Yeah. I'm a bit of a wimp when it comes to spice, so that's good for me to know.
I like a little bit of spice, so I'm one of these people who's probably going to add a little bit more or something at the end, but always do it to taste. Don't just chuck something in and hope for the best. Right, that's that in, so I need to add some my liquid, which is going to be my tomatoes. So let's put all of those in. Oh, wow. That looks absolutely fab. Let's see if I can get you a view of what we've got so far.
Oh yes, let's see.
Ooh, look at that. I think that looks pretty good.
Yum,
I'm
yum.
going to pop that down again. Now I'm now going to turn the heat up a little bit because I want to get that good and hot.
Nice. We've got 7 people watching along, so maybe somebody's even cooking along with us. Let us know. Say hello.
Cook now, cook later. Either way, enjoy it.
We definitely want to see the finished pictures.
Oh yeah. Oh, this smells absolutely divine. I love this. Right, so I'm bringing that up, the temperature up a little bit just to make sure that it heats through. I do have a lid somewhere. Here we go. I can pop the lid on too if I take the spoon out. I can put the lid on and that will keep the heat in and make it get to temperature a bit quicker. And then when it's got to the temperature, I'll turn it down a little bit, back down again so that it kind of simmers.
Yeah, that's a really good energy saving tip. I've been doing that a lot. It's just simply putting the lid on your pot, heats things up quicker, and your overall cooking time is reduced a little bit because your pan's reached a good temperature that little bit quicker, so you don't need to have the hob on.
Yeah.
The gas on for quite as long.
Okay. Right, so we've got that on, and the instructions will say let it bring it to the boil and then bring it back down to simmer it. And it says cook without a lid. The reason it's saying cook without a lid is to make it thicken up, but it's easy just to kind of, I I actually like to keep the lid on for the exact reasons Louise said. It makes it cook quicker. So I'm doing that, and then what we're going to do is add our coconut milk. Now it's a can of coconut milk. Now I've got very decadent coconut milk here. You'll understand what I mean when I say it's full fat, rich and creamy coconut milk. But you can get reduced fat coconut milk as well. And in fact, some of you might even have some in your boxes. You might have full fat, you might have half fat, but it's easy to get in the shop kind of reduced fat coconut milk. Make it slightly healthier for you.
Yeah, coconut fat can be quite high in saturated fat, but it's lovely now and then. But the half fat ones are just as tasty, in my opinion.
Right, let me open that up. Ooh, I love coconut milk. That gives a nice flavour there. If you don't like coconut milk, you can, you know, you don't have to add it. You would just add, you could either add more tomatoes or other forms of liquid, because I know not everybody does like coconut milk. And if you are watching those calories, then, you know, it is a very rich option. There is also one other ingredient which you will have in your box today, which can go with this recipe, and it's going to be a bag of this. So you'll have received a bag of this in your box as well, and it's corn vegan beef pieces, so meat substitute beef pieces, but it's corn and it's vegan. The instructions on it, if I hold the little label up for you, it's 12 minutes to cook from frozen, so keep it frozen, and then what we'll do is we'll add that in. So I'm just going to pop it back in its little bag at the moment, just because I've got it nice and cool. But what we will do is, in a little bit, I'm going to add the corn mince in, and it says 12 minutes to cook. That's to make sure that it cooks through, heats through thoroughly. Right, let me stir. Very handy to be able to cook from frozen. It means as well you can just take out a handful and put in as much as you want as well.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, that looks good. And in fact, that's already quite a thick mix there. So I'm happy. I'm going to put my coconut milk in now. Right, here we go. Ooh, yum.
Another good benefit of the coconut milk is that it's lactose free, so if anyone watching needs a dairy alternative, coconut milk is quite good when you're cooking something like a curry. So this option, this recipe actually is it's entirely dairy free, and because we're adding the vegan beef, anyone following a cooking diet can eat this curry as well. But you could actually add a meat into this. If you were to do it again, any kind of meat, some chicken might be quite nice, some fish would be lovely.
I think it would be delicious with fish. And if you want to keep it meat free, another thing that you could do is you could also add in something like chickpeas. So a can of chickpeas, that will get your protein in there. That will be delicious with that. And other things that you can add. Sometimes if I'm looking for a meat substitute, I'll often use mushrooms as well. So you could add chickpeas, you could add mushrooms.
That's probably what I would do.
Right, I've got that on. I'm going to get that cooking up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that to temperature, and then when I've got that to temperature, I'm going to take my corn, and depending on how many people you're feeding tonight will depend on how much you put in, and I'm going to take a good handful of corn and I'm going to put that in and give it a good stir. Because I've got a couple of mushrooms, I love mushrooms, I'm probably going to put those in as well. So that'll be my curry. But you could add in other sorts of veg as you want. But otherwise, we've got the corn, we've got our chickpeas, we've got our mushrooms, we've got lots of different options for making this a delicious homemade curry, and thank you very much, Tony Singh, for this recipe. It smells absolutely fabulous. You could serve it up with some naan bread. You could have rice with it. There's lots of different options that you could, and it's nice to try whole grain as well. So if you've got brown rice, is healthier than white rice. It can be sometimes a bit heavy, so I'll tell you what I do. I have a handful of brown rice, a handful of white rice, and I mix it together, and that way I get some of the goodness of the brown rice in there without it being too heavy. But otherwise you could go for it and just go straight brown rice. So,
I love brown rice. We've got extra fibre in there.
Absolutely, good for your body. So that's us for today. I'm going to let this simmer because it is going to take a little bit long to kind of simmer down a bit. In a few minutes I'm going to add my corn. I'm going to chuck my corn in. I'll probably chuck my mushrooms in as well. Give that a wee stir. The corn, remember, is 12 minutes to cook from frozen. It has a little label on it that'll say, but it's 12 minutes to cook from frozen, and the amount that we've got here is about 500 grams of corn. So everybody, enjoy your recipe. If you've got any questions, please do post them in the chat. We'll be happy to get back to you. Otherwise, Louise, thank you very much for joining me today and giving us all this information. And yeah, thank you for joining with us with Edinburgh Community Food for this cook-along, and have a great weekend, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Take care. Bye-bye.